The gate buzzed with delayed impatience and flickering overhead lights. People moved like ghosts through the too-bright hush of a red-eye terminal, shifting luggage, adjusting scarves, yawning without sound. Somewhere outside, the night waited, cold and endless beyond the glass. Cole stood near the back of the boarding line, his daughter's hand wrapped tightly around two of his fingers. She was asleep, standing up, head leaning against his coat sleeve, mouth parted just slightly. Her pink backpack, shaped like a bear, sagged with soft books and fruit snacks. He didn't shift her weight or nudge her awake. He just stood still and let her lean, the line inch forward. A flight attendant smiled without smiling as they stepped onto the plane, her lipstick perfect and eyes already tired of people. "Left, and then down to 23B and C," she said. Cole nodded. He didn't speak much on travel days. They reached their seats, window and middle, and he carefully maneuvered Lillian first, tucking her blanket under her legs and easing her small head against the sidewall. Her eyes blinked open for a second, confused. "Plane," he whispered. "We made it." She nodded, almost invisible, and went back under. Cole sat down, rubbing his palms together slowly. The cold had a way of getting into your joints on these night flights. Not the sharp cold of winter, but the stale, metal chill of processed air of a cabin pretending to be night sky. They were almost ready to close the doors when she boarded. The woman came in quietly, carrying a child that wasn't quite a baby, but still young enough to fit curled against her hip. The boy wore soft headphones and gripped the stuffed animal with chewed ears. His eyes didn't meet anyone's. They moved rapidly, darting from lights to armrest of the window as he whispered something unintelligible. Somewhere 2 rows up, a businessman made a small, annoyed sound. She didn't look at him. Her chin was lifted, but her arms were tight around the boy. Her coat, though elegant, was speckled with something, maybe from the airport floor or the boy's shoes. There was a kind of grace in her dishevelment, a control that had clearly cost her sleep. They were seated across the aisle from Cole, 1 row up in 22A and B. The boy kept rocking a little. His foot hit the seat leg with each bounce. A flight attendant approached. "Ma'am, he'll need a buckle." "I know," the woman said, not unkindly, not confrontational, just tired. She bent and tried to guide the buckle across the boy's waist. He flinched. The stuffed animal dropped to the floor. His hum turned into a quiet wail. People glanced up from phones and laptops. Cole stayed still. He glanced once at Lily, still sleeping. Then he reached for the scratchy airline blanket he'd tucked under his own knees, unfolded it, stepped into the aisle. The woman looked up, startled. He didn't say anything, just held it out. She hesitated, then took it. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded, stepped back. The boy's crying slowed as the woman draped the blanket across both of them. She tapped her finger rhythmically on the boy's hand, and he mimicked the motion. Tap, tap, tap. The kind of language most people didn't understand, but Cole recognized it. Something old, made up between 2 people who'd spent long hours together in waiting rooms. Minutes passed. The lights dimmed for takeoff. The hum of the engine became the new silence. Cole folded his arms. The chill crept back quickly. He pressed his back into the seat, closing his eyes, trying not to shiver. It was only a 6-hour flight. He could do 6 hours cold. Then something shifted. He felt it before he opened his eyes. The blanket, his blanket, was touching his elbow again, softly placed, only enough to cover one arm and shoulder, the corner of it tucked beside him like it belonged there. He glanced sideways. The woman was looking straight ahead, her boy resting now in her lap, headphones back on. Her hand was still against his chest. Steady. Cole looked at the blanket again. He said nothing, but something in his throat caught and held. Later, the boy startled awake mid-flight. He whimpered, not loud but sharp. The seatbelt sign was still on from turbulence. The woman held him closer, whispering something in his ear. Cole turned slightly. Lily was still asleep, sprawled now with one leg against his thigh. Across the aisle, the boy's eyes flicked wildly. He dropped his toy again, and his hands fluttered in front of his face, like birds he couldn't cage. The woman whispered again. It wasn't working. Without overthinking it, Cole reached forward and drummed 2 fingers lightly on his tray table. A soft beat, the kind of Dad might make on the steering wheel while waiting in carpool. The boy's eyes snapped to him. Cole drummed again, slower, then stopped. The boy blinked. His hands paused. He reached forward, tentatively, and mirrored the sound with his own little palm. Tap, tap. The woman looked at Cole with something sharp and unreadable behind her eyes, as if she'd forgotten how it felt to not be alone in these moments. Thank you, she said again, quieter this time. Cole gave the smallest shrug. He's at a rhythm. That's something. She smiled then, just for a second, not wide, not dramatic, just the soft curve of someone remembering they were allowed to smile. Hours passed like they always do on night flights. Time fell apart. The cabin existed in its own sort of dream. At some point, the woman opened a granola bar and handed it to Cole. He tried to refuse, but she raised one eyebrow. The universal look of don't argue with me. So he took it. They didn't speak much after that. There wasn't a need. The boy slept with his hand curled around her braid. Lily slept with her face against Cole's chest. The hum of the engines was steady now. Not comforting exactly, but known. Outside the window, the sky bled from black to bruised violet. Almost morning. Cole shifted slightly, careful not to wake his daughter, and glanced over again. The woman's eyes were closed, but her hand never left her son's chest. Always there, a metronome of presence. He wondered how long she'd been doing that. How many airports? How many nights like this? He didn't know her name. She didn't know his. But somehow, in this strange small space, it didn't matter. What mattered was the warmth between them, borrowed and returned. A blanket passed back and forth. A rhythm tapped out in silence. 2 strangers, not asking anything and offering everything. When the wheels touched down, no one clapped. Just the hiss of brakes, the flicker of lights, the rustle of movement. The boy stirred. Lily yawned. The woman met Cole's eyes one last time. He offered the faintest nod. She mirrored it, then stood, her son in her arms, and walked down the aisle into whatever lay beyond the jet bridge. The blanket was gone. So was she. But Cole didn't feel the loss. He reached down, took Lily's hand, and whispered, "Let's go home." Somewhere over the Pacific, the sky held its breath. The cabin lights dimmed to the color of dreams, soft amber along the floor, punctuated by the occasional flicker of a reading lamp. Beyond the tiny oval windows, the world below had disappeared, swallowed by clouds and darkness. Up here, time meant nothing, just the hush of cruising altitude and people wrapped in synthetic blankets, trying to sleep through their own lives. Cole shifted in his seat, careful not to wake Lily, who was curled up now in a ball against him. One sock had slipped halfway off her heel. Her breath was steady, her fingers tangled in the sleeve of his hoodie. He rested his head back and closed his eyes, but the sleep never came. Across the aisle, the boy had begun to hum. It wasn't loud, barely a vibration, but it carried through the stillness like a radio left on in another room. A slow, looping sound, equal parts lullaby and echo. His headphones had slipped slightly askew. One hand moved in slow, practiced circles on his mother's sleeve. He didn't look up. The hum started to rise. The woman murmured something, and when the boy didn't respond, she placed her palm flat on his back and began tapping gently in rhythm. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. The pattern repeated, not mechanical, but meaningful. A language of 2, but the hum wavered, then cracked. The boy turned, sudden and fierce, and pressed his forehead into her shoulder. His fingers clawed for the blanket, the stuffed animal, the seams of his world. His body began to twist against the seatbelt. There was no noise from the woman, only motion, steady, soft, prepared. but others noticed. A man in business class exhaled loudly. Someone muttered something unkind under their breath. Cole's jaw tightened. Not for the first time in his life. He felt that flash of useless fury. Not aimed at the boy or his mother, but at the world that still hadn't learned how to listen without needing a translation. He looked at Lily again. Still asleep. Then he bent down, unzipped the front pocket of her backpack, and pulled out a squashed, half-open bag of soft gummy bears. He held it up toward the aisle, not an offering, but an impossibility. The woman saw him. Her eyes flicked to the bag, then to her son, then back. She gave the faintest nod. Cole stood, moved across the aisle, and crouched beside their row. He didn't speak, just held the bag open toward the boy, then shook it gently. A rustle, a whisper of sugar. The boy stopped rocking. His eyes met Cole's for the first time. Not directly, but enough to register. Color, shape, kindness. The boy reached out and took one. Then two. Then three. The hum didn't stop, but it softened. Cole stood slowly, glanced at the woman. "Gummies," he said softly. "Works on mine, too." The woman exhaled. It wasn't a laugh, but something in her face cracked open, like sunlight through old blinds. "He's always hungry after the panic," she said, like his body ran a marathon. Cole nodded. "That's familiar." He moved back to his seat. Lily stirred and rolled closer. He tucked the open bag between them and rested his hand on her back, mirroring what the woman had done. A quiet ritual, done without thinking. One palm, steady and warm. Later, as the engines hummed and the plane drifted deeper into night, the woman's voice came across the aisle again, barely above a whisper. "Thank you." Cole didn't answer right away. Just stared out into the blue-black nothing. "I've been there," he said finally. A pause. "With Lily," he added. "When she was born, they told me she might not speak." The woman turned slightly, listening without interrupting. "I used to think I had to fix it. That being a parent meant solving everything. But then she started humming in the car one day. No words, just this little tune she made up while watching trees go by." He smiled, quiet and real. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. The woman's eyes softened. Did she speak? Cole looked down at the girl, sleeping against his side. "She did," he said, "but it stopped mattering if she didn't." Silence settled again, gentler this time. The boy had fallen asleep again. Fingers curled around the stuffed animal and one of his mother's braids. The blanket was draped across both of them, a sliver of it touching the floor like a flag at rest. The woman leaned her head back against the seat, not sleeping, but no longer holding herself so tightly. Cole reached into the seat pocket, pulled out a pen, and wrote something on a napkin. A habit. He used to write letters to Lily's mother when she was still here. Notes he never sent. Pieces of himself left folded between diapers and dishes. He didn't write much now. Just 4 words. "You're doing just fine." He folded it twice, then reached over the aisle and set it quietly on the woman's armrest while she stared out the window. He didn't say anything when she opened it, but he watched her fingers hold the napkin a little too long before she tucked it carefully into her jacket pocket, like something sacred. Time blurred again. Meals came and went. Plastic trays, warm bread rolls, the faint smell of reheated pasta. No one noticed the way Cole let the woman sleep for a while, watching both children. No one noticed how the woman, when she woke, slipped her unopened orange juice onto his tray without a word. Tiny trades, tiny kindnesses, the kind the world never claps for. Outside, the clouds began to thin. The sky turned the faintest shade of pearl. The flight was nearing its end. The boy stirred and muttered. The woman shifted. Cole rubbed his eyes and stretched his arms carefully so Lily wouldn't wake. The woman leaned across the aisle once more. "Where you headed?" she asked. Cole hesitated. "Just home," he said. "We were visiting my sister." "And you?" She looked down at her son. "To somewhere we might stay." Cole nodded, said nothing, but he understood. Deep in his bones, he understood. They landed in a city that hadn't yet decided to wake. The wheels kissed the ground, and the cabin erupted in the quiet rustle of coats, zippers, and seatbelts unclicked too soon. Cole stood, lifting Lily with practiced ease. The woman waited until the aisle cleared, her son still curled against her side. As she stood, something slipped from her pocket. Cole bent and caught it. A photo. A much younger version of the woman stood in front of a jet engine, smiling like someone who knew exactly who she was. Her hair was shorter then, her eyes sharper. The name of the airline was stitched across her blazer. He looked up at her. She froze. "You ran an airline?" he asked. A long pause. "I still do," she replied. Cole raised an eyebrow. "Quietly," she added. He handed back the photo. "Good name," he said. She smiled again, this time a little wider. "It's my son's name backwards." Cole glanced at the boy in her arms. "Rafi," she whispered. He nodded. "I'm Cole. That's Lily." The names hung there, weightless and true, and for the first time, they were no longer strangers. The woman tucked the photo away. Then she looked at him, truly looked. "If you ever fly with us again," she said, "you and your daughter won't need a ticket." Cole blinked. She didn't wait for a response. She stepped into the aisle, her son nestled in her arms like something unbreakable, and Cole stood in their wake, feeling not the end of something, but the hush before beginning. The plane floated in a silence too large for its metal shell. Somewhere between continents and clock hands, the sky had begun to fade from indigo to silver. Not yet dawn, not quite night. The cabin was mostly asleep, scattered with a dim glow of reading lights, the rustle of soft snores, and the quiet crinkle of paper cups half full of forgotten tea. Cole stared out the window, but there was nothing to see, only his own faint reflection layered over clouds and darkness. Behind him, the engine hummed its patient lullaby. Beside him, Lily's hand rested loosely over his. She was still sleeping, her breath warm against his side. Across the aisle, the boy named Rafi stirred in his mother's lap, making a soft clicking sound in the back of his throat. The woman, whose name Cole still didn't know, soothed him without looking down, as if their rhythm was older than thought. She smoothed his hair, pressed her palm to his chest, and hummed something under her breath. Not a lullaby, not a song, just presence made into sound. When Rafi settled again, the woman leaned her head against the seat and closed her eyes. But only for a moment. Cole watched her, then said softly, "You fly often?" Her eyes opened, not startled. She gave a small shrug, her voice low and level. "Used to. Not lately." "Business?" he asked. A pause. She seemed to weigh the answer in her hands. "Sort of." Cole didn't press. He just nodded, looking back to the dark window. He thought of all the lives that pass you by in terminals, all the people sitting at gates with 1,000 miles of story folded into their backpacks. You never really know who's flying beside you, not until something breaks open. A little while later, after the sky had bruised into lavender and breakfast trays began to clatter in the galley behind them, she leaned across the aisle. He said your daughter might not speak. Cole looked up. "Yeah," he said. Doctors weren't sure. "And now she does when she wants, not because someone made her." The woman nodded like she understood. "And she did. He used to say my name," she said softly, glancing down at Rafi. "Not often, but sometimes. Now he doesn't." Cole tilted his head. "That hurt?" he asked gently. She nodded. "But I don't think I'd go back. I miss hearing it." Her voice was steady, but there was a pause in it, a silence she had lived inside. Cole looked down at Lily again, remembering all the sounds that used to scare him. The absence of them, then the sudden return. How even a whisper could feel like a song when you'd waited long enough. The woman reached for something tucked into the seat pocket. A folder, plain and slim. She held it for a moment before setting it on the tray between them. Cole glanced at it. A logo, one he didn't recognize, but beneath it, embossed in gold, was a name. Irothale. He blinked. "That you?" he asked softly. She nodded. "I used to run an airline," she said. "Founded it. Designed the interiors myself. Even the scent." Cole looked at her, not sure if he was supposed to laugh. She wasn't joking. "And now, I still own it," she said, her voice quieter now. "I just don't run it. Not like before." "Why not?" Ira looked down at Rafi. He was still asleep, his cheek pressed into her collarbone. They said children like him might make passengers uncomfortable, that he didn't match the brand. That I didn't. Cole stared at her, the words sitting heavy between them. "So I left," she added, almost to herself. "Took what was mine. Started over. Bought back the planes one by one. Changed the mission." She tapped the folder lightly. "This jet we're on now? It's one of mine." Cole's brow furrowed. "You mean you own this plane?" She nodded once, slowly. "I picked the carpet. The lighting. Even the way the seatbelt clicks. Softer, less jarring. Details matter." He sat back, looking around the cabin as if for the first time. "And the name?" he asked. Ira smiled faintly. "Rafi. It's short for something else. But I kept his name in it." Cole let out a low breath. That explained the Stitch logo, the pamphlets, the little things that felt different now that he thought about it. Gentler. "I've never heard of an airline like that," he murmured. "That's the point," she replied. "Not yet." There was no pride in her voice, no arrogance, just quiet, rooted conviction. The kind you only earn by rebuilding your whole life with one hand while holding a child in the other. Cole looked at her again, really looked. "I gave you a blanket," he said slowly, "and you gave me a jet." That made her laugh, the first real one since she boarded. "It wasn't fair trade," she said. "No," Cole replied, smiling. "I got the better deal." She shook her head gently, then glanced at Lily. "She's strong," Ira said. "She had to be," Cole answered. "She lost her mom young." Ira's smile faded respectfully. "I'm sorry," she said. "She remembers in pieces." Cole added, "I try to hold the rest." They sat in the quiet that came after truths. The kind of silence you don't fill, you honor. Eventually, Rafi stirred again. Ira rocked him gently, murmuring something close to his ear. Cole watched the way her fingers moved, grounding, rhythmic, intuitive. "I don't know how you do it," he said quietly. "You do," she answered. "You're doing it." He didn't reply, but his throat tightened. After the flight attendants passed through with orange juice in customs forms, Ira pulled a small notebook from her bag and scribbled something. She tore off the page and folded it once. When Cole looked up, she handed it to him. Not with ceremony, just simple grace. "For when you fly again," she said, "just show this." He unfolded the note. Her name, a number, the words, "For Cole and Lily, wherever the sky takes you." He looked at her, stunned. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to." Another pause. "Thank you," he said anyway. Ira looked back at him, eyes steady. "No," she said. "Thank you. Not many people see us and still choose kindness." Rafi reached out in his sleep and found her braid again. Lily stirred beside Cole, murmuring his name. Outside, the light was beginning to shift. It was almost morning. The plane began its descent through a sky the color of worn paper. Below, the city still slept under a sheet of fog, soft and unbothered. Lights blinked in the distance like low embers, and the wings tilted gently, carving a slow arc downward. Inside the cabin, the atmosphere shifted. Passengers sat up straighter. Seat belts clicked into place. Overhead bins groaned softly under the weight of their stories. Cole reached for Lily's hand as she stirred, groggy and tangled in her blanket. Her eyelids fluttered, lashes stuck together with sleep, and she gave a small grunt, a sound he'd heard since she was a baby. always right before she was fully awake. He rubbed the back of her palm with his thumb. "Hey, Bean, we're almost home." She yawned without answering, curling her legs up on the seat and resting her head against his side again. Across the aisle, Ira sat still, both hands on her son's shoulders as he rocked ever so slightly forward and back, forward and back. The movement wasn't anxious this time. It had the calm rhythm of someone soothing themselves, rather than being pulled under. The blanket still lay across his lap, and he clutched his stuffed animal tightly in one hand. Ira caught Cole's eye. Neither of them smiled this time. There was something else between them now, a stillness that felt more intimate than familiarity. The landing gear clicked. A low mechanical groan followed, the way a house settles before a storm. Cole turned back to the window, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't dread what waited on the other side of a door. The tires kissed the runway like a secret, and the plane settled into itself. The rush of speed pressed him back for a moment, and then it was over. Just a taxiing hum, a flicker of blue light streaking past a window, and a chorus of seatbelt clicks, as if waking from a shared dream. Lily sat up, her hair a soft explosion of sleep. She looked around, confused for a beat, then remembered. "We're here?" she asked, her voice raspy. "Yeah," Cole said. "We made it." She blinked at him, then at the woman across the aisle, then at the boy. "What's his name again?" she whispered. "Rafi," Cole replied. Lily looked down at her crumpled snack bag and pulled something from it, a squished pink gummy bear. She held it in her palm for a moment. Then, with the solemnity only children can carry, she stood up on the seat, leaned across the aisle, and placed the gummy bear gently in Rafi's lap. He looked at it, then at her. He didn't smile. He didn't speak, but his hand closed around it like it meant something. Ira's lips parted just slightly. "Thank you," she whispered, more breath than words. Lily nodded. "He can have the rest." She handed Ira the whole bag, sticky and half empty, like a gift wrapped in intention. Ira looked like she might cry. She didn't. She tucked the bag gently into the seat pocket and pulled Rafi close. The line of passengers started inching forward, the soft, awkward shuffle of bodies trying to reclaim gravity. Cole hoisted their bags down from the overhead bin with one arm and reached for Lily's hoodie with the other. "Let's stay close," he said. "Lots of people." She nodded, holding his hand tighter than usual. They stepped into the aisle, the four of them, Cole and Lily, Ira and Rafi, walking slowly through the narrow corridor of plastic and steel. No fanfare, no one watching, just four figures moving to the hush of endings and the quiet beginning of something unnamed. As they stepped into the tunnel of the jet bridge, a gust of cold air met them. Real cold, not cabin-cooled or recycled. It bit through their sleeves and reminded them that the sky had changed outside while they had been up there learning each other, without words. A man in a dark coat stood at the gate with a tablet in his hand and a badge clipped to his belt. When he saw Ira, he straightened. "Ma'am," he said quietly, bowing his head just slightly. Ira nodded back, a small, regal gesture without ego or show. Cole watched. A flicker of realization danced behind his eyes. "You got someone meeting you," he said. "Just my assistant," Ira replied softly. "He worries." Cole smiled. "He should." They walked together a few paces more. At the split between domestic and international terminals, they paused. This wasn't the kind of story that needed goodbyes. It just needed honesty. Ira turned to Lily and crouched to her eye level. "You gave my son something kind," she said. "That's a kind of magic people don't always notice." Lily tilted her head. "You're pretty." Ira laughed, but it cracked around the edges. "Thank you," she said. Then she turned to Cole. He opened his mouth, unsure of what he was about to say. Ira beat him to it. "If you ever need a seat," she said quietly, pulling a small envelope from her coat, "on any plane with this logo, don't book. Just come." She pressed it into his hand. He looked down at it. Plain white. No fanfare. Just a soft embossing of the word Rafi. I can't take. You can, she said, because it's already yours. He didn't argue. Some gifts don't need earning. Rafi tugged on her sleeve, then gently and pointed at Cole. And for the first time, the very first, he spoke. Blanket, he said. Ira froze. The air around them seemed to pause. She stared at her son like she was afraid to breathe. Cole crouched low, his heart hammering. You remember me, he said, voice cracking slightly. I gave you that. Rafi blinked, then touched Cole's jacket, right over the heart. One soft tap. Ira was crying now. Silent. Stunned tears that made no noise but shattered everything. She knelt beside Rafi and kissed the top of his head, her hand shaking. 6 months, she whispered. That's the first new word in 6 months. Lily stepped forward, wrapping her arms around her father's leg, as if anchoring him to the floor. Cole looked at Ira. Maybe we'll take that flight, he said. Ira smiled through the tears. Just don't be a stranger. She reached out, gently cupped Lily's cheek, and stood. They didn't hug. That would have broken the spell. They just stood there, close enough to matter, close enough to remember. Then Ira turned. She and Rafi walked away, into the rhythm of airport announcements and early morning shuffle. He was still holding the pink gummy bear. Cole stood there for a long time, envelope in hand, daughter at his side. And as he looked down at her, still half asleep and small beside him, he felt it. Not the ending of a flight, but the beginning of flight itself. If this story touched you, subscribe or share your thoughts about the moment that touched you the most.